How's it going, everyone? This is Nick. I'm back here with another Reventure Consulting YouTube cast. And today we're going to take a look at Florida and why real estate investors and home buyers around the country should really seriously consider buying in Florida right now, because it's one of the best states in the US for future real estate growth. And in this video, we're going to break down with data why that is the case, looking at things like jobs, migration, home affordability, and how all of those things combine to make Florida one of the best real estate investment markets in the US going forward. This video is a must watch for anyone who's looking to buy a home in Florida or anyone who's looking to buy a real estate investment property in Florida. Additionally, it's also a must watch if you're looking to understand why Florida has such a vibrant economy and why it offers so much economic opportunity for people. Right now, lots of different people from around the US are moving to Florida because they can't find jobs where they are currently, and Florida is offering those jobs. So we're going to explore in this video why that's the case as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the crux, the most important thing when trying to analyze a real estate market is looking at job growth. Job growth is what really underpins everything when it comes to the demand for homes and apartments in an economy. Simply put, if an area is growing its job count, if more and more people are becoming employed and more people are making more money, the real estate market is obviously going to benefit from that, right? Because that money and those jobs are going to get channeled into the real estate market. And it's in this respect that Florida looks really, really good. Florida's job growth over the last 2 decades is one of the best in the US. That's right, it's one of the best in the US. Huge gains in jobs all across the state in Florida, which is of course benefiting real estate owners across the state. Now, lots of places and lots of economies like to talk about how they're growing jobs. The thing is, most of them aren't. Florida actually is. And so when we're going to compare Florida in a second to states like California and New York and Pennsylvania and Illinois, you're going to see just how much higher Florida's job growth is than everywhere else. And that's what we're looking at on this graph, where we're tracking the growth rate in jobs since 2000 over the next 20 years. So we go all the way back here, 2000, we see this purple line. Florida starts growing jobs through the mid-2000s. We then see a dip in the Great Recession, 2009, 2010, but Florida bounces back immediately all the way up to a high of 32% job growth by February 2020. Now, of course, we see on the graph the dramatic impact of COVID. Florida jobs crashed after that point, as they did in all these other states on this list. But then Florida has now rebounded back to plus 24% job growth since 2000. You can see that Florida is not quite at the level it was at prior to COVID, but it's gaining. It's going to probably require a little bit more of an economic reopening, more people coming and traveling, and more tourism for Florida to get back to its previous high in job growth. However, plus 24% is exemplary. It's outstanding in terms of job growth over the last 20 years. I mean, just compare it to the other states on this list. Let's look at California. So California has grown jobs by only 6% over the last 20 years. So over 20 years, California has grown jobs by 6%. That's like a minuscule job growth rate. That's not really delivering the type of demand for housing that you want to see in a healthy real estate economy. If you guys are enjoying the data and the content in this video, please make sure to hit subscribe down below. Please also make sure to like and to comment on the video. I love sharing this content. I love sharing this data with you guys. It just makes it easier for me to do that if you interact with the video. So again, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. I would really appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the video. If we go further down this list, Pennsylvania has actually lost jobs over the last 20 years. That is correct. So today in Pennsylvania, there's fewer people who are employed than there were 20 years ago. Just think about that. Let that sink in terms of what that means for the local real estate market. Things get worse when we look at a place like New York. New York has actually lost almost 5% of its jobs, almost 400,000 jobs over the last 20 years. Jobs today in New York are 5% lower than they were 20 years ago. And then in Illinois, it's even worse. Illinois jobs are 8% lower today than they were 20 years ago. And you really got to let that sink in, and you really got to think about that in terms of where you want to be. If you're a home buyer, right, and you want to buy in a location that's going to appreciate, do you want to be in the state that's added almost 2 million jobs over the last 20 years? Or do you want to be in the state that's lost 500,000 jobs over the last 20 years? If you're a real estate investor looking at different markets around the country and you're trying to decide what is the best market for me to invest in, do you want to be in a state like Florida, which has seen 24% job growth, or do you want to be in a state like California, which has seen 6% job growth over the previous 2 decades? Now, a question you might be asking yourself at this point is why? Why is Florida doing so much better in terms of providing economic opportunity for its citizens, growing its economy, bringing from people from outside Florida into Florida? Why is Florida doing such a better job at that than a place like California or New York? And one of the main reasons is what I call domestic migration. So what domestic migration is when someone lives in one state and then moves to another state in the US. That is a domestic migration move right there. And Florida has the highest domestic migration of any state in the US. It attracts the most people in terms of relocating and moving while losing the least. And that is huge for an economy, because if you are adding people like that, let's just think of an older couple from New York. They want to leave New York, get into some better weather in Florida. They come and they live in Florida for 8 or 9 months out of the year. Those people are now spending money in Florida's economy. They're going out to dinner, they're going to the bank, they're going to the hair salon. That's money that used to get spent in the New York economy, and now it's getting spent in the Florida economy. And when you spend money in the local economy, that's going to create jobs, right? So it's the positive domestic migration into Florida, which I think is heavily related to Florida's weather as well as its business climate, bringing all these people in. That's what's creating all of these jobs in Florida compared to these other states. And to really hammer this domestic migration point home, we're going to compare Florida and New York. You can see them right next to each other. And we're going to compare domestic migration in the different counties throughout the states. And the first thing you'll notice is a vast difference in the color coding on these maps. And let me explain it. So the greener the county looks, the more domestic migration. So in this case, St. Johns County, which is just south of Jacksonville, its 2019 population was 265,000. Over the previous 9 years, from 2010 to 2019, 70,000 people moved in more than they moved out. So there's positive plus 70,000 in domestic migration, which accounted for 27% of St. John's population in 2019. 27% came from positive domestic migration over the previous 9 years. That's why it's shaded green. And you can see that basically all of these Florida counties are shaded green. Sumter County, plus 37% migration. Sarasota County, plus 16%. Indian River County, plus 16%. We go up to the Panhandle here. Walton County, plus 23%. So just tremendous domestic migration all across Florida. And that's what, the green shading in these counties shows. Now, let's turn our attention to New York. We see that there's basically no green on the map in New York, and there's really only this orange and beige color. And what does that mean? Well, the orange and beige color means we've lost people. So for instance, Delaware County, New York, lost 6% of its population due to domestic migration outward over the last 9 years. Broome County lost 7%. Albany County lost 3.6%. If we zoom in and we go down to New York, we see even crazier numbers. Kings County, which is Brooklyn, lost 300,000 people to domestic migration. So again, just to clarify, that means 300,000 more people moved out than moved in to Brooklyn, Kings County. Queens County is almost exactly the same, minus 12%, minus 270,000 people. Bronx County also the same, minus 200,000, minus 13%. So all across New York, we've just seen a tremendous amount of people moving out, and many of those people moving out are the ones moving to, all these green counties in Florida. So it's really this domestic migration which is adding such a benefit to Florida's economy. It's attracting and basically stealing all these population and citizens from other states around the U.S. who are making the decision to say, oh, Florida is a better place for me to live. I'm going to go live in Florida, whether that be to retire or whether that be because it's a better place to find a job. So I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to leave the state I was in before. And that's just a trend that's occurring not only in Florida, but like in other states around the U.S., like Texas and Tennessee. They're seeing big influxes of people, Utah. And so domestic migration, this is a statistic that you're going to want to dig into for any type of real estate analysis you do, whether it's at the state level or the county level. You're going to want to know where people domestically are deciding to move. And it's really this foundation of job growth and domestic migration which makes Florida such a good investment opportunity for real estate going forward, right? If you're creating jobs and if more and more people are moving to a state and to a city, that's going to start feeding on itself, right? It's going to start creating a positive feedback loop where all of a sudden people move in, they start spending more money, it creates more jobs, and then all of a sudden Florida gets to be known as kind of a place of economic opportunity. People from other parts of the U.S. start hearing about that. They say, I want a job. They go to Florida. So that's really the positive feedback loop that's starting to take place in Florida compared to states like New York, Illinois, California, where that is not happening. It's actually the opposite that's happening in those states. However, having economic growth is great. It's essential. But if you're buying a house or you're buying a real estate investment property, you also really care about the fundamentals in the local real estate market. Namely, what's the affordability situation? Am I having to pay a ridiculous amount of money to buy my home or to get in the game in terms of investment? Or are things more affordable? Is there a lower barrier to entry? And can I buy the house I want? Or can I buy the investment property I want? In this case as well, Florida looks really strong. Despite all of its growth and all of its attractiveness, it still offers affordable real estate. So if you're a first-time home buyer, you don't have a lot of money for a down payment, you could still find a place in Florida. Whereas if you're in California, you're screwed. You're not buying a home. You're renting for the rest of your life. Florida still offers the opportunity of affordability and growth for people who want to own real estate and grow wealth that way. And you can see that exemplified on this graph, which looks at the typical home value in Florida compared to some other states, data from Zillow, over the last 20 years. And the immediate thing that jumps out is Florida, typical home value at the end of 2020 of $267,000. That is just way lower than a lot of these other states on the list. I mean, let's just compare it to California. California is at $618,000 typical home price. So that's the home, like the median, the average home price, $620,000 in California. It's $267,000 in Florida, nearly 3 times lower. And let's think back to that employment growth chart. Florida's job growth is 4 times higher than that of California over the last 2 decades, yet its real estate prices are almost 3 times lower. If I'm an investor and I'm looking for value and affordability relative to growth, Florida is the place I'm going to be. California combines low growth with expensive real estate. That's not something you want. I've also added Massachusetts and Colorado as points of comparison on this list. So Massachusetts and Colorado are more, Colorado is a high growth state. Massachusetts is like a medium growth state. You can see that their typical home price is around $450,000, almost double that of Florida. And then we have New York. New York, the state which has lost 5% of its employment over the previous 20 years, where nearly every county is seeing domestic outward migration, has real estate prices that are about 35% higher than Florida. And, affordability, I can't stress enough how important affordability is. The one thing you can never change in your real estate investment is the price you pay up front. And if you're paying a cheaper price up front, there's more room for it to grow, especially if you're in an economy which is growing. The other thing I want to point you to is the history of home price changes in these states. So the one thing that sticks out about Florida is you could see that it definitely has a bit of a checkered past in the mid-2000s, where home prices peaked at like $275,000 in 2006, and then they went pretty far down. I mean, they lost more than basically half their value over the next 6 years. That might make some people reticent to invest in Florida in the future if, maybe it'll do it again. The good thing is Florida's home price today of $267,000 is still below where it was at its peak 15 years prior. In the meantime, income levels in Florida have grown tremendously, on the order of 30 to 40% increases in income levels, yet real estate prices are still lower. So it's very unlikely that Florida has another type of crash like it did in the mid-2000s. So Florida really has it all in terms of real estate investment potential for home buyers and real estate investors. It's got lots and lots of job growth, lots and lots of inward migration, affordable real estate prices, and there's not too much new supply getting built. That's a cocktail that's going to deliver strong future growth and returns to homeowners and real estate investors in Florida going forward. It's also a cocktail that's going to propel Florida's economy even further into the future. Florida is an affordable place to live. It offers economic opportunity. Those things are tremendous for not only real estate, but society as a whole. Right? There's less inequality in places like that. More people can make the jump from renting to owning in a place like that. So Florida just has lots and lots of really positive things going on. So if you're a homeowner, if you're a home buyer thinking of buying in Florida, if you're an investor looking for a place to invest, or if you're someone just looking for better economic opportunity and a more affordable place to live, Florida fits those criteria. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I love making this content. I love sharing all of this data with you guys, but it makes it easier for me to do that if you interact with the video. So again, like, comment, let me know what you think, and make sure to subscribe. And I'll be doing more of these videos in the future. One of my next videos is going to be looking at Florida's cities more in depth. So maybe at this point you know that you want to invest or buy in Florida, but you don't know where. Well, stay tuned, subscribe. My future videos are going to analyze the cities and markets in Florida in more detail, like Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, this is Nick from ReVenture Consulting signing off.